Jesus went through one town and village after another, teaching as he made his way to Jerusalem. Someone asked him, "Lord, will only a few be saved?" He said to them, "Strive to enter through the narrow door, for many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able." Luke chapter 13, verses 22 through 24. Okay, this is my 2009 Chevy Cobalt. I'm trying to diagnose a noise that I'm getting, and it's when I'm doing a turn and accelerating. I'll try to capture the noise here. So that was it, the knocking or kind of clattering noise, or however you want to describe it. Okay, the problem seems to be fairly obvious. The boot on the half shaft on the driver's side rather is ripped, and so we will assume that CV joint is bad and needs to be replaced. Okay, so the first thing that I have to do is take a 30 millimeter socket on this bolt here and take it off. I already loosened it with additional leverage besides this breaker bar. So next I'm going to leave this a little bit on there, and I'm going to just tap on it. Okay, so that is loose now. And I'm going to remove this washer that's here. Okay, next I'm going to remove the lower control arm bolt that attaches the steering knuckle to it. And so to do that, I've got a 15 millimeter socket here, and then I've got my breaker bar in there because the other socket was too big to get in there. So I suppose you could also do that with an open end wrench. And on this side, I used an extension to the other side of the bolt, which is a 16 millimeter socket. And I simply loosened it like this. Okay, and to make it easier to get that bolt out of there, I just put a little bottle jack under there to relieve the pressure. So now that bolt will just come right out of there. Okay, with a little upward pressure on the knuckle with the bottle jack, and then a little prying between here and the knuckle, I was able to free that from the knuckle. And when that came down, then the half shaft on this side, on the wheel bearing side, slid out of there. So you can see that's loose. So now all we have to do is pop it out of the transmission there. And I believe that if you just stick something in between there and apply a little bit of pressure, it doesn't take a whole lot, it should pop out of there, and that will free up the half shaft. Okay, to get this loose from the half shaft loose from the transmission there, I used a crowbar here with a hook on it, and I just placed it right here, and I just pried this way, and that was enough to get this thing to move. Gotta kind of work it a little bit. And then it comes off. And while I was in here replacing the half shaft, I noticed that this lower control arm bushing is pushed out, and the control arm here, this piece, has slid out of the bushing, and so it's no longer centered in this frame pocket between here and up there. It's all the way at the bottom, and we had been hearing a clunking noise on rough roads, and I suspect that maybe it's contact between the control arm and the frame pocket there. So it looks like we're going to need to replace the control arm. So we have two 16mm bolts on this front bushing, and then there's another one. Okay, and this is the rear bolt, and it is a 21mm socket, and I did have to work it with a breaker bar back and forth a little bit to make sure it was freed up, because I have another video out there about it sticking, and that was a real pain. So I wanted to make sure I didn't have that condition again. Okay, so now I'm taking these bolts out here. Started with a breaker bar to get this moving. Do the same thing over here. I'll switch to the ratchet. Okay, take these two bolts out here. And now this thing. It's got a couple of brackets on there that go like that. So don't know whether those are on the new one, so we'll just hang on to those. And that's out now. So if we look at this control arm, that rubber right there should be out flush with this metal ring, and it's worked its way out of there. So on the other side you can see it's sticking way out rather than being flush like it should be. So that is probably where at least one of the clunks is coming from. Okay, we're putting in the new lower control arm. Just going to stick that in there to kind of as a placeholder. Okay, so I have a bottle jack here holding up the new lower control arm on this side, and I have those bolts started, and I have this rear one in place, and I'm going to try to put the bolt through and get it lined up. So that should hopefully work out. Okay, I would recommend putting never sees on this rear bolt before installing it, because it may freeze up on you if you don't. Okay, it seems like it's started now. Would help if I would tighten it. Okay, and it seems like the trick to getting these things lined up is you have to have the strut out of the way, and you have to move this thing around. Alright, so that one looks like it's in. Okay, now we're going to try to get this new CV axle, as they call it properly. I was calling it a half shaft, but I think both terms are used in different places. Okay, it's slipped back there. Now I have to get it locked in place over the snap ring. So I'm going to go ahead and take this brake line bolt here to give me a little more room to move the stroud assembly out of the way. Okay, so I have actually tied the strut back to help hold it out of the way, and then I just took this and shoved it in really good like that, and now it's locked in there, so that's the way we want it. Okay, and the next step is to position this so that it will line up with the hole. Okay, I'm going to do my rope. Maybe a better way to do this, but so that's lined up. And now I can work on lining up the lower attachment for the control arm. Okay, so you can see that I'm getting close here. I've just got to get that knob in the hole. Unfortunately, I don't have a tripod that's can give me this angle, and I can't do it with one hand, so I'm not going to be able to film that part of it. Okay, so what I did was I put this, I worked it around so I could get this nut on here, and got a couple of threads on there, and well, actually more than a couple. I, put it into where it's at now, and then that gave me some stability with this thing, and it didn't all come apart, and up to get things lined up, and then I was able to manipulate both the lower control arm by pushing it down a little bit, and the knuckle by moving it around a little bit, and I was finally able to get that lined up. And so now I've just got to continue working it and pull it the rest of the way up in there. And once I had it lined up, I used my bottle jack to push it up there the rest of the way so that this bolt will slide in there nice and easily. Okay, this rear bolt takes a torque of 74 foot-pounds plus 180 degrees. And these are 41 foot-pounds. And this one is 37 foot-pounds. Back off 3/4 of a turn, and then take it back to 37 foot-pounds, and then a final 30-degree turn after that. And that is what they recommend for this. And this bolt or nut is 155 foot-pounds. And of course, don't forget to put that bolt back on that holds the brake line.